People outside were still screaming in shock, panic spreading everywhere. "Someone call the police!" Then the guy slowly raised his hand again, clenching it into a tight fist. "Get ready," he said. The fist right in front of Hyung-suk's face was absolutely terrifying. A crowd quickly gathered around him, all pointing their phones like it was some kind of joke. What made it worse was the constant noise of cameras recording him from every angle. After struggling for a long time, Hyung-suk finally managed to drag himself back to his small place. When he checked social media, his brutal beating had already spread everywhere. He couldn't stop thinking about it, even muttering to himself. All those ugly moments of him, there was no hiding them anymore, and suddenly a thought crossed his mind. Maybe it'd be better if he just died. Meanwhile, voices from the phone kept playing. "Hey, are you filming this? Should we stop them?" His video was now flooding social media, the views skyrocketing. "So I've become famous on Facebook now?" He curled up in a corner of the room, overwhelmed with pain as he watched himself being completely humiliated, stripped of every last bit of dignity. "It's over! There's no hope left for me!" He broke down in uncontrollable sobs. "I'm nothing but useless trash." The tiny bit of confidence he had just started to build vanished without a trace. Those ugly images of him kept spreading across social media, shared over and over again while everyone laughed at him. He reached for his phone and scrolled through his contacts, but there wasn't a single friend in there. The only place he had left was this so-called peaceful village, the place Hyung-suk had just arrived at. He had always thought this would be the one place where he could finally feel at ease, but now all he could do was curl up in the corner of his room and cry until he couldn't stop. His whole world was now consumed by a cold, crushing loneliness. The tears just wouldn't stop. He cried harder and harder, as if all the pain inside him was spilling out at once. "I'm here. I'm a human being too. I'm right here." And like that, he did nothing but cry and cry and cry, almost as if he were trying to... After crying until his body was completely worn out, he eventually drifted off to sleep, sinking into a dream where no one could humiliate him anymore. Then, in the middle of a pitch-black space, he suddenly jolted awake. Did I doze off? Hyung-suk slowly opened his eyes and looked ahead. "I need to pee." But the moment he looked forward, everything in front of him felt strangely dark. "The bathroom? Where's the bathroom? Wait, where are my glasses?" After fumbling around for a while, he finally found them. Then he slowly made his way to the bathroom, one thought after another running through his mind. Why do I feel lighter after waking up? And with that, he went to relieve. Right after that, he headed back to his tiny room. Was the floor always this low? Maybe I'm still not used to living here. Even when he looked at the sink, something felt off. It seemed lower than before, too. Did my eyes get swollen from crying that much? He muttered to himself, "I should wash my hands. But what will they look like?" He stared straight into the mirror and his eyes looked completely normal. No swelling at all, nothing like he expected. He kept looking, slowly examining himself over and over. Everything seemed perfectly fine, but how was that even possible? Then he realized something was terribly off. His entire body had changed. The person staring back at him in the mirror wasn't him. This face, this body, none of it belonged to him. And yet everything about it was flawless. Hyung-suk couldn't believe it. How could he possibly have a body this perfect? He was too shocked to even speak. He instinctively took a step back, trying to calm himself down, convincing himself this had to be a dream. But the confusion only grew, followed by a flood of unanswered questions. Panic set in. Hyung-suk stared at the mirror again, trying to process it. "Police? 119? No, I should call Mom first." His entire body trembled in overwhelming fear. Then, suddenly, something caught his attention, something far more terrifying than anything else. There on the bed was a painfully familiar figure. He was awake, but his own body was still lying there, fast asleep. His current body was completely different, and as he stared ahead in horror, another Hyung-suk was lying right in front of him, sleeping peacefully. He slowly stepped back into the bathroom one more time, and there it was again, his reflection inside that unfamiliar body. The face looking back at him was bright, handsome, the face of a man he had never seen before. He slowly raised his hand and stared at it in disbelief. He was trying to figure out whether this really wasn't his body, and yet somehow it was him, not an illusion, not a lie, real flesh. And then once again, he turned to look back at the bed, and the sight was just too strange to comprehend. There it was, the same overweight body he had carried for all those years, lying on the bed sound asleep. And he knew for certain that was him too. But at the same time, every muscle in this new body felt real. The strength pulsing through it told him this wasn't fake. Everything had happened so suddenly, but in that moment he finally understood the truth. This wasn't a dream, it was real. Outside, the view was still bleak, wrapped in the lifeless atmosphere of that poor little neighbourhood. And when he looked back at the version of himself sleeping peacefully on the bed, he couldn't help but fall into thought. At that moment, he grabbed his phone and sat down in the corner, curling into himself. It was terrifying. What he felt most of all was pure fear. Hung-suk desperately searched for every answer he could think of on his phone, but just as he expected, there was nothing online. Either I'm dead, or something even worse has happened to me. A moment later, he started to call 119, but then he hesitated. The police? Emergency services? Should I call Mom instead? In his mind, terrifying images flashed by. Doctors holding syringes, all of them staring at him with eerie expressions. No, definitely not the police or the hospital. At the very least, I'm still sane enough to know this situation could get even worse. And that was when Hung-suk suddenly thought of the one person he trusted most, his mother. He seemed to realise who he should turn to first, but everything had happened so suddenly that he still wasn't mentally prepared to face it. So in the end, he decided that for now, he should keep this whole thing a secret. Meanwhile, his old overweight body was still lying on the bed, sound asleep. Outside, the sky had already begun to fade into late afternoon. He slowly walked over to that large body on the bed and called out softly, "Excuse me?" But no matter how hard he tried, the sleeping figure didn't react in the slightest. Excuse me, please wake up," he found himself politely calling out to his own body. But no matter how many times he called, it didn't react at all. It just kept sleeping peacefully, even drooling all over the pillow. Seeing that, Hyung-suk couldn't hold back his emotions anymore. Anger started to boil inside him. The next second, loud thuds echoed as he slammed his fist against the wall, shouting, "Hey!" But suddenly, everything around him turned pitch black. Only a faint glimmer of light flickered ahead, catching him off guard. He looked down at his own hands, long, well-defined fingers. This was his body now. At that moment, he started to convince himself, maybe this really was just a dream, because reality shouldn't feel this strange. After spending some time in that slim, perfect body, he glanced down again, only to recall the heavy, fat body he used to have. I feel so light now. If this is a dream, maybe it's easier to accept it that way. He no longer cared about anything else around him. The only thing left in his mind was one thought. He had to change himself. This is horrible, but also kind of a beautiful dream. And the moment he accepted it as a dream, he was struck by how easily the human heart could deceive itself. Slowly, he began to feel a little lighter inside. Leaning back against the wall, he muttered, "Maybe I should go back to the bathroom." But just as he was about to stand up, something suddenly caught him off guard. What? His eyes widened in fear as he stared ahead. There, lying asleep on the other side, was a slim, smaller body. So this really wasn't a blur, it was real. There really was a second version of him, lying there on the floor, fast asleep. Hung-suk's face immediately darkened. Staring at it, he stammered, This doesn't feel like a dream at all." And just like that, the fear came rushing back. He reached out and tried to wake that body up, blurting out, sorry, the whole time. He was more flustered than ever. Maybe because he'd already done this once before, it somehow felt a little easier this time. Then he became more serious about it, carefully focusing on what he was doing. Sorry. But the moment he tried to force that body awake, the image of it began to fade inside his mind. And right after that, it shifted back into the other body again. He woke up once more, this time inside that thin, frail body. He turned his head and saw his overweight self lying on the floor beside him, sleeping soundly. Seeing such a terrifying scene, he jolted upright in shock. I woke up again in that strange body. Everything happening around him felt unbelievably bizarre, leaving him completely stunned. What? Right then, he kept touching his own body over and over, muttering, sorry, as if trying to make sense of it, repeating it all through the night. By the next morning, he was still lost in a haze of thoughts about everything that had happened. Isn't it true that people can adapt to anything with time? In just a few days, Hyung-suk had already begun adjusting to this absurd situation. He became determined to protect this new body. I don't know how this body came to exist, but I can't let anyone find out about this. What mattered most was this. Whenever he fell asleep in one body, he would wake up in the other. The two bodies were completely opposite, with nothing in common at all. When he woke up in his overweight body, he would see the slim one lying there, fast asleep, and sometimes he couldn't help but stare at it for a long time. Whenever one body was awake while the other slept, he would lie down again, forcing the heavier body to fall asleep. Sleep, just sleep, one sheep, two sheep. Within seconds, he would drift off and then wake up again in the smaller, slimmer body. It felt like that body had already gotten enough rest. I don't feel sleepy at all. He realized then that he would always wake up in the other body. During that time, he began to figure out the rules of his condition. First, when one body is asleep, it cannot wake up on its own. Sitting there, trembling, Hyung-suk stared at his overweight body lying unconscious. No matter how long he waited, it wouldn't wake. It seemed the only way to switch bodies was to fall asleep himself. Second, if one body is forcibly woken up, the other will fall asleep almost instantly. To test it, he quickly moved his smaller body over and tried to wake the overweight one. If I force this one awake? He kept smacking his own thigh, trying to jolt that body conscious. And then the moment the overweight body woke up, it looked completely drained and sluggish, while the smaller body immediately collapsed to sleep instead. The body that wakes up is forced to stay awake, and it hurts. Third, the other body still feels hunger, along with all the other normal physical needs. After struggling through countless thoughts and testing things himself, he sat in the corner and muttered, "I've been sleeping in this body all day. I'm so dizzy. I seriously almost peed myself." The contrast between the two bodies became impossible to ignore. Whenever he forced one body to stay active, the other would instantly drop like the dead, and during the switch, the sleeping body couldn't do anything at all. Sitting up properly on the bed, he began organizing all the thoughts racing through his mind so he could stay healthy. I can't sleep too much, but I can't sleep too little either. I should alternate every 12 hours. And if falling asleep naturally takes too long, then I'll just have to force the other body awake. Fourth, and most importantly, his consciousness stayed active 24 hours a day. Sitting there in the small, slim body, Hyung-suk looked over at the overweight one and smiled faintly. And if I switch into the body that's already had enough rest, it's almost like my brain gets to rest too. I feel strangely comfortable. At that moment, he reached out and gently shook the overweight body. If one body dies, would the other one still live? But he didn't have the courage to test it. Nothing about this felt safe enough to risk. Time passed quickly, and the day he had to start at his new school was getting closer. Sitting on the floor in confusion, he could only wonder, should I go tomorrow? No one would understand what I'm going through anyway. Then suddenly something felt terribly wrong and cold sweat began pouring down his back. The moment he thought about school, memories of the bullies from his old one came rushing back. He instinctively swallowed hard, trying to calm himself down. Morning had fully arrived, a new day had begun, and with it, his first day of school. A group of girls suddenly looked ahead and gasped. "Look over there, that's Sol Bum from the music department. He cut his hair and he looks so cute." Hearing all those compliments, the guy lit up with excitement. "Heh, they're looking at me." It seemed like he was already convinced second semester was going to be his time to shine. The two girls still couldn't take their eyes off him. "He's seriously so handsome, right? So cute." Then the two girls glanced at each other and said with envy, "There must be a lot of good-looking people in that department. Even Jang Hyun from cosmetology is super popular." But then someone suddenly walked in, and the two girls froze. Their eyes were instantly drawn toward him, as if they were looking at a kind of beauty they had never seen before. They immediately became flustered, unable to hide their shock. Sol Bum still had no idea what was going on. He thought everyone was staring because they were admiring his looks. Smiling to himself, he thought, "Heh, don't I look especially handsome today?" But right then, Hyung-suk accidentally bumped into him. "Oh, Sorry, Hyung-suk said at once. The guy immediately turned and snapped at him. What the hell? Are your eyes just for decoration? Since Hyung-suk had only just transferred and didn't know anyone yet, he wanted to avoid as much trouble as possible, so he quickly apologized again. I'm really sorry. This body was so light that he still hadn't fully adjusted to it. Sol Bum was completely thrown off when he got a good look at him. His face went pale. Startled, he blurted out, Are you okay? Did you get hurt anywhere? And right after that, everyone around them started watching Hyung-suk with open admiration, their eyes following him wherever he went. From this taller body, even the world itself seemed smaller. Only now did he understand what it felt like to move through a place and have admiring eyes follow him everywhere. Maybe I'll really be okay this time. Another group of girls had already gathered off to the side, staring at him and whispering among themselves. Hey, do you see him? Hyung-suk kept walking slowly, trying to avoid drawing too much attention and get past them safely. He had known this day would come, so he had even bought a uniform that fit this body properly. Then one of the girls suddenly shyly ran ahead, and the unexpected encounter caught him by surprise. The moment she heard him call out, she turned around with a bright smile. Hey, Mijin, she answered right away. Oh, hi. No matter how hard she tried to stay calm, she couldn't hide the emotion in her eyes when she looked at him. Right after that, he quietly turned his face forward again, thinking to himself that choosing this school uniform for this body had been the right call. Off to the side, the girls still couldn't stop buzzing with excitement. He's so hot, and for the first time, Hyung-suk no longer felt ashamed. Please, I just hope I won't get bullied. At that moment, the whole school felt strangely quiet. But inside the classroom, the chatter only kept growing louder. Wow, it's already second semester. That was fast. Meanwhile, Lee Jin-sung and his group were sitting on top of their desks, chatting like they owned the place. Why the hell is it still this hot in September? I'm losing weight just sitting here. Annoyed, he barked, Hey, Park Cho, what kind of fan is this? Turn it to level 3 already. Then he repeated it again like he was ordering an actual machine. Level 3. Park Cho, crouched down on the floor, started fanning even harder, over and over again, obediently following the order. Level 3? The others laughed as they watched someone else suffer. Pfft! Look at him. A human mini-fan. How convenient. Hearing them mock him like that only made Park Cho burn with anger. But even kneeling there on the floor, Park Cho had no room left for pride. All he could think was, just endure it. Just survive this somehow. Then, all of a sudden, a girl from the front turned around and glared at them in annoyance. Hey, that air is freezing! Cut it out already! The boys immediately snapped back, vicious as ever. Shut up, you ugly witch! But she wasn't the type to stay quiet. She fired back. Keep your filthy mouth shut. Mijin didn't look well at all. Her whole body was trembling as she kept saying, It's so cold. The girl's expression instantly changed. Huh? What's wrong with Mijin? Then she shouted, Turn it off, now! Hey, who told you to fan it toward Mijin like that? A moment later, a threatening voice rang out inside the room. Just remember this. But before things could escalate any further, the teacher finally walked in. Class was starting, and he immediately shouted at the students to settle down. Quiet down, we've got a new student joining the class. The moment he said that, the whole classroom erupted in surprise. A transfer student? From Myeongil? Is it a boy or a girl? Then the teacher looked toward the door and gave the signal right away. Come in. Everyone froze in surprise, their faces going completely blank. Hyung-suk stepped onto the platform at the front of the class. With a serious expression, he looked at the students and introduced himself. My name is Park Hyung-suk. He still hadn't fully gotten used to this body, so a trace of insecurity remained. His eyes wandered nervously around the room before he added, I hope you'll all be kind to me. But inside, his thoughts were already in chaos. What the hell is this? Don't panic. Don't make eye contact with anyone. Then suddenly, a voice rang out from somewhere in the room. Oh my! Right after that, he was assigned to one of the empty seats. Go ahead and sit in the open spot. The entire class was stunned by the new student's appearance. The girls especially went completely wild the moment they saw him. He's like 182 centimeters, maybe? He looks so cool. "Oh my God, he's insanely handsome." They were practically dazed just looking at him. At the same time, the boys started shooting jealous looks in his direction too, clearly thrown off by the way all the attention had shifted to him. And then all of a sudden he noticed a cold, strangely familiar figure sitting nearby. Sol Bum casually glanced toward the group as if nothing about the situation was out of the ordinary. The classroom slowly settled back into its usual quiet atmosphere. Hyung-suk's expression grew tense, his body trembling as memories of the past came flooding back. "On your first day, step in with your right foot. Remember to greet people," he tried to steady himself. Then he remembered his old, overweight self, and the fear from last year came rushing back. The moment he tried to say hi, someone had immediately threatened him. "Talk to me again and I'll kill you." But now he tried to apply what little experience he had, forcing a bright smile as he prepared to speak. Yet at that very moment he suddenly grew shy again. Is this where everything starts going wrong all over again? Then the boy's expression turned serious as he looked straight at him. "Hey!" It was clear. He recognized him immediately. That face, he could never forget it, the guy who had beaten him before. But now the way that boy looked at him was completely different, almost thoughtful. Damn! Hyung-suk panicked, not even daring to look back. His mind spiraled into chaos. Around him, whispers spread like wildfire. His background must be insane. Is he a model or something? He's seriously easy on the eyes. At that moment, his thoughts drifted to how drastically everything could change, like those sudden transformations people go through. Almost unreal. Suddenly a voice called out, "Hey," making him turn in confusion. Hanun approached with a charming yet innocent expression and looked straight at him. "You're Hyung-suk, right? I'm Hanun." From behind, whispers immediately broke out. "Look, she's making her move again. I told you, she always goes after handsome guys. Wow, he's seriously good looking." Then someone suddenly pointed out, "Hey, what's that mark on your hand?" "Huh? Where?" Hearing their conversation, others immediately grew annoyed. "What is she up to now?" But she just kept smiling brightly at him. "You're really handsome, you know." Even the girls around her froze for a moment, hearing that. It was the same old bold approach. Hearing that, he couldn't help but blush. "Oh my God, this is the first time a girl has ever called me handsome." But just then another voice suddenly cut in. "Hey, Hanun!" From behind, a cold-looking guy stared at her and said, "Stop bothering him, he's already getting enough attention as it is." She immediately puffed up and shot back. "Hey, Jin-sung, what was that supposed to mean? Did you have to be so harsh?" His face twisted in irritation. "Just shut up already! I'm sick of you, you crazy girl." And yet inside, Hyung-suk couldn't help but feel strangely happy as he looked at him. Realizing he might have gone too far, Jin-sung suddenly paused. Even he seemed surprised at what he had just said, leaving everyone around them stunned. Mi-jin turned back toward them and Jin-sung snapped again, his anger flaring. "Hey, Mi-jin!" Right after that, his expression shifted in an instant as he stared at him. "That damn transfer student, why do I have such a bad feeling about this? And why is this pissing me off so much?"
As for the school he had just transferred to, it was a comprehensive high school. Inside, there were countless things he had yet to explore, along with a wide variety of specialized departments. Music, culinary arts, cosmetology, performance, fashion, physical education, construction, and interior design. This environment focused more on vocational training than preparing. Every day at school, he witnessed all kinds of chaotic and indulgent behavior from students across different departments. The fashion department allowed students to alter their uniforms freely, the music department was filled with instruments, and the cosmetology department even allowed hair dyeing. This unusual sense of freedom created a kind of psychological pressure compared to nearby schools. Many well-known figures had graduated from here. Even so, countless successful people had come out of this place, from model trainers to idols, all professionally trained within these walls. Back at the school, an announcement finally rang out. It was lunchtime, and today every single student had their eyes fixed on him. "Hey, Hyung-suk, what do you feel like eating?" A moment later, he returned with a full tray of food and sat down beside them, leaving everyone around him visibly surprised. He kept a calm expression, doing his best not to show any emotion as he simply focused on his own meal. Meanwhile, from all around, voices erupted in excitement. "He's so hot! An Oppa of the century just showed up, and there's even a girl chasing after him nonstop. She kept trying to follow him, and when she lost sight of him, she grew frustrated. Damn it, I just looked away for a second. Over by Jin Sung's group, the guys were openly enjoying the spectacle. He's ridiculously hot. Does he have a girlfriend? A transfer student, huh? He's got to be from the fashion department or something. He's insanely good looking. And the more they talked, the darker Jin Sung's expression became. A moment later, he walked straight over to him and said, "Hey, new kid."
Then his tone shifted completely. Even Hyung-suk got a little uneasy. Want to talk for a bit after lunch? They moved to a quiet spot behind the school. The moment they got there, panic flashed across Hyung-suk's face. What the hell? This scene feels way too familiar. He immediately remembered all the times they used to bully him in places just like this. He'd been beaten here over and over again, punched, kicked, and worse. But this time, everything unfolded differently. They looked at him and asked, "So your name's Hyung-suk, huh?" He answered right away, "Yeah." And the group reacted with open amazement. Damn serious. His expression darkened a little as he glanced away. Buying this uniform already cleaned me out. Then Jin Sung casually pulled out a pack of cigarettes from his pocket and held it out toward him. He forced a faint smile and looked at him. "So where are you from? You're really tall. How tall are you? Come on, have a smoke. It's the best after lunch." Hyung-suk glanced at the group in confusion. The guy continued, "You must have been pretty tough at your old school, huh? That's why you transferred? Look at those shoulders. Do you play sports or something?" Jin Sung was nothing like before. With a strained smile, he added, "With a face like that, you must have tons of girlfriends, right? Come on, introduce us to a few, bro." Hyung-suk still couldn't figure out what they were really after. What the hell am I supposed to do here? He took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. If I say I don't know how to smoke, they'll look down on me, and I'll get beaten again. I'm screwed. But then a sudden surge of courage rose within him. Looking straight at them, he said firmly, "Sorry, I quit smoking." Then he added, putting on a slightly mysterious tone, hesitating just a bit. Now more confident, he met their gaze. "To be honest, I don't really know any girls either." Hearing an answer they hadn't expected, the group burst into mocking laughter. What the hell? This guy's acting all poetic now. After saying that, he immediately turned to leave. "I'll head back to class first." Behind him, they cursed angrily. "Look at this punk, get lost already." But for the first time, he felt a sense of relief. "I made it. I got out." Watching him walk away, Jin Sung's group frowned, clearly irritated. "What the hell is wrong with that guy? I seriously don't like him at all." After lunch, he returned to the classroom, still struggling to fight off the overwhelming drowsiness. Suddenly, that girl came over again. "Hey, hey! He's sleeping so deeply." She couldn't stop staring at him, completely captivated. Even when he's asleep, he looks handsome. Meanwhile, back where he was, Hyung-suk completely forgot. Whenever he fell asleep in this body, he would wake up in the other one. He was startled out of his mind when he realized he was now in his overweight body. Oh crap, when I sleep, I switch back to the other body. In that instant, he understood why he had suddenly passed out. Of course, I've barely slept in that other body. I've only had a few hours of rest since I kept overthinking whether to even go to school in that perfect body. Desperate, he tried to fall asleep again to switch back. I have to get back to that body fast or I'm screwed. But can I even sleep? This body's been sleeping all day already. I need to force myself to sleep somehow. Meanwhile, the girl watching him had a sly look in her eyes. If I wake up this handsome guy, I'll talk to him sweetly, hey? On the other side, he struggled to fall asleep. Why is it so hard? Damn it, I knew this would happen. I'm not sleepy at all. Come on, just fall asleep already. Please. His face twisted in frustration as he muttered under his breath, trying to force himself into sleep. Finally, he managed to return to the classroom body and jolted awake, mumbling to himself. But just then, a sudden voice startled him. "Come on, Barbie." She stared at him with a strangely seductive expression. He stammered, "What do you mean?" In the end, he had to force the sleeping body awake, and it hurt like hell. When he opened his eyes, for some reason, her expression turned completely stark. Did he just curse at me for following him around all day? That's kind of exciting, though I guess I feel a little bad, but whatever. She hesitated, staring at him in disbelief. Did he really just snap at me? He looked at her in confusion. Wait, Was this busty hot girl the one who just woke me up? But then her expression shifted again. She looked even happier now, almost thrilled. Wow, he's so bold, so manly. Eventually, it was time to head home. He stepped into a convenience store that was still open late at night. After ringing up his items, the cashier said, "That'll be 801. Do you need a bag?" The customer replied softly, "Yes." At that moment, his appearance had completely reverted to his original overweight self. "Have a good evening." "Humph. At least say thank you." Struggling through it, he managed to land a part-time night shift job at a convenience store. The day before, after school, he had come to this very same convenience store to look for work. A small sign was posted outside, "Overnight part-time position from 9 p.m. to 7 a.m, pay negotiable." Gathering up all his courage, he stepped inside and asked the convenience store owner, "Excuse me, are you still hiring for the night shift?" The man immediately answered warmly, "Yes, we are. Come on." After finally working up the nerve, he quickly stepped inside and forced out a confident smile as he spoke. "Night work actually suits me perfectly." He pointed to the hiring sign outside and said, "I saw the notice out front." The owner, the moment he saw him, was secretly thrilled. Jackpot! A handsome employee means more female customers and more sales. Since this was his first time applying for a part-time job, Hyung-suk nervously asked, "Do I need a reference letter?" But the owner just kept smiling, already feeling like he'd hooked. Embarrassed, he asked, "Would it be okay even if I'm just starting out?" But the man answered without hesitation, "You're hired." He was so shocked he'd found a job that quickly that he could barely believe it. "Really?" Then the owner stepped closer and kept talking. "Can you start right away? How much do you want per hour? Name your price." Hyung-suk was so stunned he could only mumble awkwardly to himself, thinking, "Wow!" Right after that, the owner hurried over with a staff uniform in hand. That was when Hyung-suk panicked and seized the moment to explain. "No, actually, I'm asking for a friend." The owner froze in surprise. "What?" By then, it was getting even later into the night, and the only light left was the faint glow spilling out from the convenience store. The convenience store owner's expression soured the moment he saw Hyung-suk's overweight appearance. Then he stared at him and asked suspiciously, "You're that friend?" Hyung-suk quickly answered, "Yes." At the same time, a thought crossed his mind. "What's with this guy all of us?" The owner immediately changed his attitude. "Sorry, no, I don't hire students." Seeing that reaction, Hyung-suk grew flustered and said, "But my friend said everything was fine." And then the man, "You're just a student. How would you even know cigarette brands?" The owner said, trying to make it clear the job would be too difficult. "There are dozens of names you'd have to remember." And right then, Hyung-suk quietly said, "Menthol," catching the man off guard. Without hesitating, Hyung-suk looked straight at him and began listing them off clearly. Camel, Essie, Marlboro Red, Bohem, Dunhill. Hearing that, the owner stared at him in disbelief. "What kind of kid are you?" Thinking back on how hard he had worked just to get accepted there, Hyung-suk could only feel relieved he got the job at all, even if the pay turned out lower than expected. In the end, the owner just said, "If you can, bring that friend of yours by sometime too." That was when he finally understood the real problem. Having two bodies meant his living expenses had doubled too. One body moved around during the day, the other had to sleep. The new body lived through the daytime, while the old one handled the night. School by day, work by night, from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m, he lived as the handsome version, and from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. he went back to being the ugly one. To stay healthy, he decided each body should only be active for 12 hours. Then, the world around him fell quiet, and a thought crept in. Why did something like this have to happen to me? That new body had appeared out of nowhere. Every morning he woke up inside a beautiful dream, only to return to a cruel reality every night. Then, back at the convenience store, the customer bell suddenly rang as the automatic door slid open. Another customer had arrived. A rowdy group walked in, laughing loudly and mocking everything around them. One of them stepped up and said, "4 small packs of Marlboro, man." But then he stopped short. He had just recognized Hyung-suk as someone from his class. Hyung-suk forced an awkward smile and looked at him. The guy sneered, "What's wrong with this idiot? Does he talk slow because he's stupid or something?" All Hyung-suk could do was keep that strained smile on his face. "Great, now I'm stuck selling cigarettes to these assholes." But Hyung-suk calmly said to them, "Could I see your ID, please?" The guy's expression instantly soured. Huh? Why is it different today? You always sell to us before. Annoyed, he immediately pulled out his ID card and held it up. "Here." Hyung-suk glanced at it and replied, "Oh?" But what shocked him even more was the birth year on the card, 1984. "Why does this guy have some old man's ID?" The guy's face turned even uglier with irritation, but Hyung-suk cut him off. "I don't think this is your ID." The guy shot back in surprise. "What? I've just put on a little weight, that's all." But inside, he was already cursing him. "This little bastard." Still firm, Hyung-suk shook his head. "I'm sorry, I can't sell it to you." The guy tried to push again, whining, "Come on, that really is my ID. It's just a bit different." But eventually he gave up.
They turned to leave, but Hyung-suk awkwardly muttered to himself, "Wait, how old is he actually? Why?" A wave of anxiety hit him. "I'm gonna get fired for this." The door suddenly opened again, and he instinctively shouted, "Hey!" Outside, the group ran into Jin-sung, who was standing there. "If it doesn't work, just go somewhere else. This place is annoying anyway." Then suddenly, they all looked toward Hyung-suk. "Hey, Jin-sung." His face twisted as he stared back. "Huh? That fat guy?" At that moment, flashes of his past self came flooding back, sending Hyung-suk into panic. Right now, all he wanted to do was run. Run away from this place as fast. Inside, he was on the verge of tears. "Mom!" Jin-sung seemed to recognize him. A sinister smile spread across his face as he muttered, "It's that guy again. Who is he anyway?" The group quickly turned and walked off. No need to go anywhere else now. Left there, completely flustered, Hyung-suk stared after them. At this rate, they could probably even buy alcohol without a problem.